Tell us what happens when natural gas, a low-cost source, meets North Carolina's energy mandate. What does that create?
Well, the mandate doesn't apply, of course, to natural gas. It's considered a fossil fuel. In the European Union, natural gas is considered a green energy, which I think is very interesting. They are aware of the net environmental effects of changing over to natural gas. Solar and wind, which are the major renewable sources, are only operating at their full capacity a few hours a day when conditions are exactly right. Otherwise, they're very expensive technologies.
So you actually, in your report, compare natural gas in several different ways to both wind and solar. Let's talk a little bit more about those. You've talked about the reliability issue because obviously if you can't rely on wind or solar if the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. What about the environmental impacts of solar and wind? A lot of people think, well, they're a, quote, green energy source, so there would be very little environmental impact. But you say there actually is.
Well, in converting over to solar and wind, you have to understand that they are extremely inefficient, which means that you need to build several plants. It takes about 7 solar plants and about 4 wind plants to be the equivalent of a coal plant of the same capacity, whereas nuclear and natural gas can be equivalent to the coal 1-to-1. So there's that aspect of it. The dispatchability problem, the fact that you can't have solar and wind running when consumers need it, it depends on the whims of nature, means that they have to have some form of energy, fossil fuel energy technology running in the background. So you have to factor those costs into account and those environmental impacts into account as well. So those are some of the things that come up. Then you have to deal with the land impacts. It takes a much, much, much bigger amount of land to build plants for solar and wind than it does for natural gas.